Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining our webinar, How to Engage with Clients and Candidates in Today's Market. Just a couple of housekeeping items before we get started. All phones will be muted during the presentation, but we encourage you to ask any questions in the questions panel that is on the right-hand side of the screen. We'll get to as many questions as time allows before the end of the session. The webinar today will be recorded, and you'll get a copy of the recording within the next 24 hours. So we will get started, and I will hand it over to David Stott.
Thanks, Anna, and good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us on this webinar presented by Bullhorn. I'm David Stott, Vice President of Enterprise for Bullhorn, and today I'm joined by an excellent panel of guests to discuss how to engage with clients and candidates in today's market. So this afternoon I have with me Jared Mueller, CEO of TextKernel. TextKernel specializes in machine learning for the HR and staffing world. Joe McGuire, Global Sales Director at Cube19. Cube focus on growth analytics for staffing and recruitment firms. And Ryan McCabe, a fellow Scot and the CEO of Odro, a powerful video interviewing platform that work with the staffing and recruitment world. So good afternoon and welcome, team. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. We're going to kick off this afternoon and talk a little bit about the sort of current state. As we go through the webinar this afternoon, we're going to talk a little bit about clients, candidates, where we are now, what's changed, and also get the panel's insights into where are we going? What do we think this is going to look like as we fast forward a few months, multiple months into next year? What is the impact of COVID and the current situation going to be? And what challenges and equally what opportunities is that going to present for everybody? So I'd start off by asking the panel, what's the biggest shift you've seen in candidate engagement as a result of COVID-19? Joe, do you want to maybe kick us off?
Yeah, sure. Look, I think from my perspective, one of the biggest things that's changed is that people are asking more questions than ever before. You know, it's a very different world we're in, people working remotely. There was all of a sudden a drop off in jobs in mid-March and what would appear to be more candidates potentially on the market. And I think relationship building is more important than ever right now because we're preparing for whatever kind of bounce back we have in the future. But I think the fact that it's the questions that are being asked is what's really changed. The quantity of questions, people are being more inquisitive. What does their candidate pool look like? And actually people are starting to categorize more what their candidate pool looks like as well, in terms of, you know, who are our top priority candidates, who are our platinum candidates we want to be talking to, who are the sort of people in certain verticals and certain sectors and certain regions. So I think it's that whole piece around looking more at the data, but people are starting to put more guidelines in place as well for what good engagement looks like with candidates. You know, if we've got these superstar candidates out in the market, well, we should probably be talking to them at regular intervals. Candidates that are perhaps less important or currently less important because they're not necessarily in sectors that we would operate mostly in, can we set up automation around those things? But I think it's just that more awareness of what is our world looking like today and what do we expect it to look like in the future, and what foundations do we need to put in place currently to make sure we come out of this in the strongest way possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Ryan, what about yourself? What are you seeing as a result of where we find ourselves just now?
So I think that the obvious thing is that face-to-face interviews have disappeared, depending on where in the world you are right now, but realistically they don't. I think that's going to be a while before we get back to any form of normality in that front. So obviously from our little bubble, we're seeing, you know, huge changes in how video is used in the process. I'm sure we'll cover that off. Everyone knows that if any recruitment's happening right now, it's got to happen on video, whether we like it or not. I think just touching on Joe's point there about relationships, one of the things that we're seeing quite a lot of is that candidate conversations are on the up because they're no longer in a busy office. They're no longer, they have their manager over their shoulder in working hours. So there's more conversations happening. So to Joe's point about building relationships, I think the biggest shift I'm seeing now is the people that are making that move and taking advantage of that situation and that opportunity right now are the ones that are going to win when the bounce back comes.
Yeah, absolutely. And Gerard, you obviously have a pretty broad spectrum of clients, both staffing and in the HR space.
That's right.
How has this situation sort of changed what you're hearing, seeing, and talking about with clients?
Well, I think as was mentioned before, on the one hand, you see a lot of candidates, new candidates entering the market. And that actually is both an opportunity as a problem, and on the other hand, we're seeing that agencies, staffing, and also corporate recruitment departments are scaled down during this crisis. So it offers a challenge, and I think many of the companies and customers we talk to today realize that now more than ever, digital transformation really is important to automate those workflows going forward and to provide these candidates with a good experience, right? Because as you may not have a job for them today, you will have a job for them tomorrow. So making sure that those candidates actually feel helped is a really and served well is really important. Figuring out how to do that with fewer people.
Yeah, I think that's a common theme. Obviously, there's a lot of people who have either sort of furloughed staff or have had to maybe lose some staff. So trying to do more with less and also help candidates who I think find themselves in a market that maybe they didn't expect to be in. It's happened suddenly, or they've maybe not been in the market for a while. I think there's a lot of talk, or there certainly has been a lot of talk recently around the negative aspects of COVID and its impact on our industry and others. But I think there's definitely opportunity in this. And I think that brings us to our sort of second question. And I think where we as a group really want to focus is like, what is the opportunity to improve candidate engagement levels? Like, where are you seeing, or where do you think we're going to see an opportunity to come out of this maybe better, stronger than perhaps we went into it? Ryan, any thoughts?
Yeah, so I think one of the things I saw that was really clever when this all started was some of the really forward-thinking firms started that sort of, I don't want to use the term cross-selling, but they wanted to look at transferable skills in a failing market and apply them to a market that was thriving. For example, someone who was perhaps a product marketer for cars, for example, could then move into food product marketing because there's very similar skills there. And it was that's a whole new conversation when you're speaking to a candidate to say, do you want to move verticals with this amazing skill set? I think that's quite a good conversation to have. We've seen a lot of people sending part of the Odro system is sending personalized video messages, and that's also shot up quite a lot. Again, because people are at home right now and probably will be for the foreseeable future. They're at home, they can take something like that in if it's sitting right in front of them, there's no one else around about. So I think the type of conversation you're having and how you're eliciting that conversation is something that we should kind of start from scratch again on and realize that we're on a new playing field and start to just reinvent it from the ground up. If again, a lot of people are also candidates, clients are also candidates. So you can very easily ask yourself, what would I like to see? What would I respond to? So I think kind of rebuilding that from the ground up is something we should all be doing right now.
Yeah. And Gerard, from your side of things, like in terms of like improving and that candidate engagement, anything interesting you're seeing, hearing, talking to clients about and how they think about that candidate engagement component?
Yes, absolutely. So I think there's basically two aspects to it. One is again, I think there's like we said before, there's candidates coming to the market that haven't seen or been in the market for a long time, so they actually need more help to kind of like figure out, as Ryan stated, what could be a potential career change, what could be an adjacent role. So that's one aspect where I think, in terms of candidate engagement, agencies can play a really important role. On the other hand, as we will see more activity, more applications going on, it's also very key for agencies to figure out really quickly what are the most important candidates to go after first. And so I think, again, I think there's a lot of possibilities there that, with technology that will help you figure out, if you get 100 applications to a job, which candidate should I reach out first, instead of finding that great candidate as the 40th applicant, and then potentially somebody else beat you to it. So I think there's aspects there that make it a necessity now to be very to have really good insight into what are these candidates capable of, and what are the most valuable candidates, because you do want to reach out to those first. And on the other hand, there's a big opportunity to be more consultative and really help candidates to their next job opportunity.
Yeah, and Joe, obviously you guys do an amazing job at Cube with data and analytics and helping recruiters put the time in the right place. Are you starting to see sort of changes like Jared said? It's candidate surplus, it's new candidates in the market. Have you started to see a change in how people are using that data to segment, like Jared mentioned, or prioritize? How's that sort of manifesting when you look at the reporting and the analytics that your clients are using?
Yeah, I touched on it a bit earlier about these sort of different varying questions people are asking now, and the sort of categorization of these candidates. But there's always historically been a lot of wastage when it comes to the amount of work we do. And that's on the client side as well as the candidate side. But specifically on candidate engagement, I think we always as junior recruiters, we were taught to just volume was the most important thing, rather than necessarily the sort of the direction and the quality of what we were doing. And I think that's a big shift in this and how we're going to adapt to servicing candidates better. Because if you look at a basic example, if I get a candidate to a final interview, but a different candidate gets the job, do I keep communicating with that candidate that got to a final interview and start to spec them out to other clients and put that good candidate to use? They got to the final stage. There must be something good in there. A lot of people just forget about that person and move on to the next job because they haven't filled it. And I think what was emerging before this anyway is that the typical generalist recruitment agencies have been dying or changing, adapting for a while. And I think that's being almost forced a lot more now as well. People are typically generating niches and micro niches, or niches within niches. And I think that means that the recruiters become more of an expert within their field, which is going to benefit the candidate engagement anyway, because if we know more about what we're talking about, we can talk their language more, then we can very much improve that whole relationship from start to finish. And then it becomes more important to be building out longer term relationships with candidates rather than these transactional relationships. And the way people are using data to do that is not the old typical way of how many candidate calls have I made today, the pure volume number, but it's what A grade or platinum candidates have I not spoken to in the last 30 days, or which candidates got to final stage interview in the last week that I haven't forwarded to sent a CV to another job. So that's how people are adapting data rather than the historical looking at the past. They're looking at the opportunity of what I can do now to be more successful tomorrow.
Yeah, and that's data that's unique to them as well. It's something that they can use to differentiate their proposition, help those candidates in a unique way, and also benefit themselves and their businesses as well. We started with candidate engagement. Does anyone have any other sort of pieces they'd like to share about the candidate experience? If not, what we'll do is we'll switch over and have a little bit of a conversation around clients.
That's fine.
If we think about the market we're in, there's obviously, I think in general, it's fair to say there's fewer roles. There's certainly different roles and changes in the market. We see some areas where clients are thriving, other areas where clients are really struggling, and obviously that impacts directly into the staffing and recruitment world. But I'd be interested in understanding from yourselves, like, how do you think agencies can ensure they're differentiating and managing the relationships in a world that looks and feels different and it's probably a little bit more competitive in the current landscape? So, Gerard, what are you seeing in this sort of space when it comes to client engagement and working with clients from an agency and staffing standpoint?
Yeah, so I think what's really important and what we see is that, and we as Textkernel see also an increased interest in our job feed product, which basically allows agencies to have a very detailed look into what the hiring behavior is of their customers. And I think in general, and not just on the hiring behavior, you really need to have a deep understanding of what's going on in the labor market. So have good access to labor market statistics when it comes to demand, but also in terms of supply, because it will help you basically guide your the company strategy that everybody's working on today, because everybody's wondering what's going to happen next, and data insights will at least help you to verify whatever conclusions you draw or plans that you may make for the future. So I think that's really key to really understand how the demand is shifting in detail, what type of customers are still hiring, what are they hiring for, and then act and plan your strategy. So that's I would say the thing that we see happening the most in the market today, and the questions that our customers come to us with.
Yeah, and Ryan, for yourselves, obviously your technology provides a different proposition for engagement. Are you seeing your clients use that to help differentiate and think about how they work with their clients differently?
Yeah, I think that from our point of view, what we're seeing is there's an opportunity here for recruiters to sort of take the lead on this sort of remote hiring, virtual hiring, virtual interview process type of approach. We know that if anyone is hiring, as I say, we're doing that on video, but there's agencies out there that are doing really well and sort of taking control of that and saying, look, yes, we could say, well, maybe we'll use Zoom and we'll pull things together, but actually it's not just about the interview itself. It's how do you keep a candidate actually engaged either side of the interview throughout the process when things are different. So I think it's about educating the clients on on what a virtual hiring process could look like, and trying to find them. We need to be hiring virtually right now, but this is actually a really good way to do it, and we know what we're talking about. So I think actually educating yourselves on what that process could look like, passing that information on to the clients to help you stand out, to say we can lead in this vertical, but also giving that same level of transparency to the candidates, because I think the clients want to know you can do that too. Say to the candidates, look, this isn't standard practice. It's not what this business usually does, but we've been brought in as specialists in this field. We can lead this process by following these steps. This is what it'll look like for you. Don't worry, this is new for everyone, but we've got a plan, and this is how we push things through. So I've seen them, that working really well. But another way is actually refining products all over again, understanding what you offer and what for. To make sure that they can stand out and they can differentiate themselves. I've seen a lot of people going onto this sort of internal recruiter contractor type model where it's kind of like MSP type, we'll put someone in your office. I've seen people sort of trying to move towards this model. It's a bit of a hybrid of everything, to be honest. And it's just sort of, as I said before, wipe the slate clean and say, we're now in a new world. Let's look at what products solve the problem our client is looking to solve. If they need someone quickly, here's the way we would do it to get it quicker. If they need to access the top 1% of talent, that'll take a bit longer. Here's how we would do that and solve that problem. I think it's just understanding that the world's a bit different right now, and taking the lead on it.
Certainly is. Things look and feel a little bit different than they did maybe 6, 8, 10 weeks ago, and I think everyone is still figuring that out. I guess the thing that gives me a great amount of hope about the industry is that typically recruitment staff firms have always been sort of entrepreneurial. They've always been able to be opportunistic and find opportunity in the market, and I think that'll prove out again going forward. Joe, again, data for clients, like how are you seeing your clients use the data that they have on their clients, and are they doing things that are different now and maybe bridge some of that competitive landscape for them?
Yeah, I think during any downturn in the market or any shock to the market, it gives us a chance to step back and actually realize what we've been doing well, what we haven't been doing well, and look more closely at these things. And I think ultimately it's a lot about coming back to the basics on this, but utilizing the data to be able to identify, where the opportunities are. A lot of companies very rarely were looking at the difference between new business, where they'd never made a placement with the client before, versus where it was repeat business, and things like that are quite important to understand. I've seen some really interesting stats of companies where a very high percentage of the business they've been doing has been fresh new business, as in we've never placed with these companies before. 60% of the business we do every single month is with a new company, which is really exciting. Perhaps not the current data and current situation, but that's really exciting. If you've got people that are that great at new business and building relationships that consistently, will keep them focused on what they're doing, and probably start to hire some account management type people to go in and start to develop those relationships on. Very much like in the software world, we have salespeople and we have a different team for account management, very different skill sets. And actually, I think there's the US market has always done it this way. And I think there's a lot that can be learned from that. Not necessarily move into a completely split desk model, but incorporating an element of split desk in the workflow, and focus people's skill sets and attention on it. But trying to be looking at the data and information, the leading indicators of what's ahead, what's coming next, because you'll start to see that even your repeat business clients will have seasonal trends, typically more obvious in certain sectors like retail. But most sectors have these sort of fluctuations of when there's going to be important times of hiring. So I think just looking at the entire landscape, and whether it's candidate or client or job, just having that base level of data that's easily accessible, that helps drive and forge our decisions and actions going forward, is essential for benefiting both types of relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you think about that, like we have the sort of next question up is really around like strategies that we think clients or agents should be implementing to be successful with their clients. And I guess part of this is a little bit of a crystal ball question, which the crystal ball is murkier than ever at the moment when you try to predict what's going to happen. But as you look at the trends, you look at the data, you hear that anecdotal feedback from your own clients. Are there things that stand out to each of you around things that the clients should be thinking about now, so that when that snapback, that return comes, they're in the best possible position? Gerard, thoughts on things that you think people should be putting in place now to capitalize on the snapback and the return of the market?
Yes, absolutely. There's several things I think agencies could do to make sure that they're in a good position when the market bounces back, but also actually to still find business today. As Joe mentioned, I think a logical response to when your business is going down is to go out and actually find new business. So, there's ways of, for instance, looking, the way you could look at it is like, what are my best performing customers? And find similar customers with similar hiring needs in the market, so that you have a really convincing proposition explaining, hey, we work for companies with similar hiring needs. Information like that will help you find new customers more easily. I think another good strategy could be to diversify your business and look at adjacent roles and look broader within your existing customers, because as their hiring needs may change, you may want to actually change your outreach to the type of candidates that are out there as well. And as you already have these customer relationships, you can use them as a foot in the door to diversify your business with your existing customers. I think those are probably the most, to me, the most important, the most heard things that I've seen in the market today. But there's many others, but I'm going to give it back to you.
I'll just jump in there.
What those are. So, what about you, Joe? What are you thinking in terms of things that people can do now to, like you say, it's not just about the snapback. It's people are hiring and making placements today. We're already seeing that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think it just comes down to, leading on from what Gerald was saying there, it comes down to giving your client confidence. It's what it's always been. We're in a relationship industry. If we can automate process, that means we can spend more time building relationships. That's what we should be doing now. So looking at technology that supports this strategy is really important. But I think giving the customer the confidence, being able to talk to them in their language, but show them where we've been successful, why we've been successful, and that we know what we're doing. We're not just throwing candidates across and hoping for the best, like perhaps it had been more so back in my day in recruitment. But we're doing things strategically. We're using data to drive our decisions, which gives them confidence ultimately. I think that's what it is. Talking to them regularly, if there's no opportunity now, making sure we're tracking the opportunity for the future and following up on those things in a timely fashion. But ultimately, it's that key thing of confidence.
Hi.
There's a sort of two-pronged thing for me. I think would be quite a useful strategy to have in place. I think with the advent of working from home and remote working presents quite a big opportunity for recruiters to widen the talent pool for clients, that they may not necessarily kind of appreciate the difference that can make if you don't need to sort of go fishing 10 miles from the office anymore, because the role would be majority home-based. That gives you a much better chance of getting a better person into the seat quicker. So I think a real strategy for me would be to start understanding what is good about remote working, what is bad, and help to educate our clients on when to consider remote working for a position. Because if you can consider it, it gives you a really good chance at filling the role if you've got more talent to go after. If you were able to do that, and if you decided that was a strategy you wanted to take your team down to educate around remote working and working from home, then it may be quite clever to change your territories of recruiters from geographical territories into, as Joe is putting it, sort of a niche within a niche. So you would say, okay, I only recruit JavaScript, but it's only Node.js that also works with, Atlas database, like something really niche, but everyone in the UK that does that. So when one job comes up anywhere in the UK, you have a pool of candidates that you can put in there. I just think it's the smart move.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're right. It's sort of forcing people to look and think differently, and out of adversity is opportunity often. And from listening to you guys talk, it reminds me of the fact that our client staffing and recruitment firms, they are the experts when it comes to finding the right talent and being able to match the right people to the right jobs. And I think this is, again, where someone with specialist skills like that, this is where they can really stand out and really help add value to their clients. It's
right.
Yeah, it may be difficult at times, but this is the chance where you can build those relationships with your clients that are going to last for forever going forward. You bring up an interesting point though, Ryan, about home working, and the current situation has sort of forced a lot of our clients and your clients and a lot of businesses around the world into, whether embracing is the right word when it's forced upon you, but embracing home working. We've certainly run at Bullhorn a number of roundtables recently, and the feedback has been that, yeah, a lot of our clients were either had started that, were thinking about it, but COVID really put that front of mind, and they had to solve that problem really, really quickly. They had to find a way to enable people to work from home. When you think about this going forward, and you think about maybe some of the culture and the way that agencies have grown and found success, I'd be interested in all of your viewpoints around whether you think remote working is going to stick in the industry, or whether this is something that as soon as the office doors open, everyone's going to flood back in and see the people they work with and hear the buzz of the office. So yeah, Joe, thoughts on remote working and whether it becomes the future of staffing and recruitment?
Yeah, I think it's such a hot topic at the moment. We're talking about it a lot internally of what it will look like coming out the back of this. You know, we don't know when we're going to be back in the offices yet, or whatever. But I think anyone that's not considering it should probably take a step back and have another think about it, because we've seen a trend where there's been the globe has been moving towards more remote working and more flexible working, at least getting a better work-life balance for a long time. The recruitment industry has probably been one of the industries most resistant to it, so most capable of doing it, because a lot of what we do is over the phone or the internet, but most reluctant to do it. And I think a lot of that comes down to the fact that it's changing what we've always done and what we've always known. There's the element of if I can't see and feel and touch what's going on in my business, well, what's happening, I've got no visibility of it. But certainly as people have been leveraging more data over time, they certainly should and are getting more confidence around, we don't need to be in the same place to be able to identify the best opportunities and make sure we're maximizing them. So I think that's a big thing, the visibility and having the right technology in place. If you've got any tech in the business that's not in the cloud, you should be reviewing that right now as well. And probably was saying that in 2020, but it's the fact that there's still a lot out there. But that's probably a key thing, making sure that technically remote working is possible. But just being able to physically work remotely doesn't mean we can run a business successfully. We have to know what the key drivers are, what the key opportunities are, and making sure we're picking up on them as quickly and efficiently as we absolutely can. And the other thing from that as well is that it's just making sure that we have the ability to try not to lose the culture as much as possible. Ryan and I have talked a lot about this in the past, but culture for me is probably one of the scariest things, where we've got great teams that work together, collaborate well together. Yes, we can do that remotely, but are you losing the personal touch where the relationships are really strong within the business, and that naturally helps the whole vibe of the company. So I think culture is definitely for me one of the hot topics of how will it be affected. More importantly, how do we maintain it or adapt it in the right ways? That's I suppose my view on things.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, just with Joe's talking about culture, I was actually I'm probably talking from a potential client of an agency's point of view right now, because I'm the typical person that would use an agency to find their staff. And I was talking to one of our directors this morning just about what are we going to do? Are we finding it, is it easier, is it harder? Because I think the thing we all need to accept right now is this isn't working from home. What's happening right now is not what working from home is like. This isn't working from home. It's more, we are having to stay at home during a pandemic and trying to get some work done. I think there's a big difference, but there's good and bad on that, because I think the first 3-4 weeks of when it hit and everyone working from home, there was a sort of honeymoon period of there's a novelty here, we need to work really hard because of what's going on. We couldn't really truly measure the impact because of what was going on in the market. We didn't know if it was us or if it was the market. But as that sort of settled down now, I think it's started. If you look at the data closely, you start to see where the good and the bad things are. I'm still undecided on culture. I think that it's obviously better to have everyone in the office for culture. Do I think that you could maintain a good culture if you have it to start with? So guys at Cube, you have a good culture, you have people coming into the office all the time, you've got somewhere to start from. If you had to say to me, build an office from scratch, just go and hire people across the world, I think that's a bit of a different story. So I think it's possible to maintain and adapt your culture, but it takes more effort if you're doing it remotely. You need to intentionally set up conversations. The way I've been putting it to people is that you don't have the kitchen anymore. And for me, the kitchen is where I would meet a software developer who I have no direct lines of communication with in a general working day, but I would get to meet, you know, one of the developers and have a chat, and that's where culture was born. You don't have that anymore, so you need to have you need to make a conscious effort to meet people. So to answer the question, I think it should be done. I think it can be done, and I think perhaps the employer brand of being able to offer this as a benefit may well outweigh the downside to the culture.
Yeah, and Jared, what about yourself as well? Like Ryan makes the point about culture and that balance, and yeah, it obviously depends if you're starting a new business. That's different versus growing and maintaining an established business. Do you think home working is going to be a strong part of the future in the staffing and recruitment world post COVID?
Absolutely, yeah. I'm a strong believer that will happen. I think we all got a crash course over the past 10 weeks to actually figure out how you do that. There was no way back, and I think most companies and staffing companies, recruiting agencies are dealing with it quite well. Still getting work done with fewer people often shows that it doesn't necessarily mean you're less productive. I think the element of culture is something that you do indeed need to spend a lot of effort into. Also, probably more around but it might also just be related to these times, employee happiness in general, right? I mean, people that are just generally more optimistic will perform better. I think that nowadays people tend to be a little bit more pessimistic given everything that's going on, but hopefully we will all soon look at this as more brightly. But I don't think we should I think we should really take the lessons and look at the benefits that it brings to us and the time it saves for people, which I think if you balance office life with home working well, and maybe turn offices more into a place to meet, where you really come together to do things that you need to do in a group or socialize, is something that will actually benefit us all. It will at least certainly save us a lot of commute time, and that's all time lost that you gain now. So I think for the quality of life and overall productivity, if you organize it well, home work's actually an improvement to what it was before COVID.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I share that sentiment. Like it's I think to the point Ryan made, this really isn't home working. Like in the future, you probably won't have like I do, 3 children running around your house chasing a puppy and screaming and wanting fed.
I have that, David, but it's not my puppy.
That's it.
I actually fled my home for this panel to not have that, but now I have no camera. Sorry for that.
Well, that's all right. Like, I think everyone's taking different steps to find a little bit of peace and quiet, and like you say, try and get some work done while everything else keeps spinning around us. And I think you're right. Like as we transition to sort of our last question here about an operational blueprint post COVID. I think that the hybrid approach is probably what's going to stand out for people going forward. You're going to be able to offer the benefit to employees of working from home at points. It's maybe not the permanent place where they always work, but they have the flexibility to work from home, but also to come to the office and keep connections, build a strong culture, be part of a team. And I think that's maybe one of the things coming out of this. We will be more open to a hybrid approach where home working is a valuable part, as valuable as coming to the office each day. As you all think about that blueprint, you think about like what does it look like going forward? Again, crystal ball, it's murky, but what do you think that looks like over the next couple of months and into next year? Any sort of thoughts on what we're going to see that's maybe different and is going to let people capitalize on the opportunities that are out there? Ryan?
Well, for me, I think just from our expertise in terms of video, video even post-COVID is definitely now here to stay in terms of the benefits of video interviewing as a whole. I think we've noticed that. I was telling the sort of panelists before we went live, our usage, just to give you an example, was steadily rising, and in February the system has been used for approximately 200,000 minutes of recorded interviews. In March alone, we've seen a jump from 200,000 to 6.5 million. And in May, we then seen that jump again to 7.7 million in May. And that's all with approximately 60% of our UK users, 40%, sorry, of our UK users on furlough. So that's only going to get even bigger. And I was mentioning this to one of our team members earlier on. There was a gent I was speaking to that supplies shops, and he was talking to me about their marketing strategy, and he said their marketing strategy pre-COVID was the biscuits are 20% cheaper, 20 pence cheaper in our shop, come and buy from us. Whereas now the people won't come to that shop for that discount. They'll only come to that shop if social distancing is managed, if there's a sanitizer at the door that's foot operated, if they're managing this process well. So now their marketing has to change, and that's the sort of thing that we shout about now. So I think in terms of, what does a blueprint for success look like? As I've said a few times, it's very much about let's wipe the slate clean, and if we were starting again today in this climate, what would we do? Because I don't think that one day we're going to just switch off and it's going to be pre-COVID and post-COVID. It's going to be a very long tail, because no one's going to put their neck in the line and say everything's okay now. I think they're just going to let it fizzle out, and we need to be prepared for that. And looking after candidates with things like video is something that I would be advocating.
Gerard, what about yourself? Like the blueprint for the future? Any thoughts on that side of things?
Yes. Well, I mean, I don't want to ruin the fight, but I think whatever we have put in place now to effectively work from home, we should double down on that, because it may not be the last time we get into this situation, right? So, I mean, I'm almost afraid to say it, to be the pessimist, which I'm totally not, by the way, but it could happen. So I think we need to really prepare for this. And the way towards it is really, in my view, it's digital transformation to really be able to do your work from anywhere, to make sure your brand is known, that you can reach out to candidates anywhere, that you measure your KPIs from anywhere, and that you have the ability to effectively work from anywhere, and of course from home if necessary. So investing in automation, digitalization is going to be key going forward to be successful. That's what I strongly believe.
Yeah, I'll join you in that camp, in the optimistic automation camp that you've just started. I'll be part of that, I think, definitely. Joe, what about yourself as you think about that blueprint going forward?
Yeah, look, I think automation is going to be a key part of it. Automation drives efficiency, and I think efficiency gains across the board are going to be really important. For quite some time now, the view of people has been changing in terms of the key vanity metric the industry used to have was how many recruiters do you have, what's your head count, pure vanity metric. And I think that's been changing. A lot of companies have now been looking, or for a while been looking at, how do we get more from a lower cost base? And that leads more to this. It's, if we're going to be working remotely, it means we reduce our cost on office space, probably. But the only way you can truly drive efficiency is if you can truly understand what your current business makeup is, and then monitor that closely and regularly. Because it's not just about, again, saying how much has someone done from a volume perspective. We should be able to answer almost any question about our business in real time, whether that be around not just our consultants, but the clients they're servicing, the jobs we're trying to fill for the clients, and the candidates we're trying to fill them with. And that could range to anything from the engagements we have with those people, to our contract redeployment rates and how we improve those, to our new business versus repeat business and how we improve, knowing who's our best client, not just who pays us the most money, but who is genuinely our best client in terms of shortest time to fill, average fees, best relationships, best spread of business, least risk. All of those questions and a never-ending set of them is what helps us then identify what could be better and where we could refocus attention. And on to Gerard's point, no one's got an excuse next time to not be prepared if we have something similar to this again, because we should be putting all the foundations in place now and in the near future to cater for it. And those preparations are about just making sure that we can be agile. We've got to be able to if something hits us in the face, we've got to be able to turn away and pivot our attention to the areas that we can be successful still. There's a lot of companies out there that are doing really well through this time. There's a lot that aren't, but the ones that are doing well are the ones that have had a good spread of different niches, and they've been able to focus recruiter attention from one place to another. You know, the recruiter already knows how to talk to clients and candidates. They've already got the internal relationships with their colleagues. All they might need is a little bit of upskilling in a different vertical to be able to reposition and make that resource valuable for you. And I think that's one of the most important things now is agility and efficiency.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you know what I think that probably brings us on to a good question to sort of maybe sort of close on is like a lot of businesses are doing well right now. A lot of businesses will go and hire in terms of agencies and staffing firms. They'll go and hire over the next few weeks and months as their businesses bounce back and as they see these huge growths and snapbacks in the market. What are your thoughts on like what does like the A player look like, the top biller? What does that person look like going forward? Is it the same as it's always been, or does that look slightly different having gone through this experience? Ryan, any thoughts?
I think the thing that we need to learn now is that, excuse me, an A player in one business is probably different to an A player in another, and you need to really look at the data behind that and understand what makes someone really good in our business and what are we geared towards. And a lot of people don't know. I mean, there's certain questions that I've asked myself and answered in my head. Okay, that's probably what that is, give or take. And you look at the data and it's completely off. And it's just because, you know, gut overrides a lot of decisions quite a lot, and that's the wrong way to be. So I think an A player does look different, and it does look different in every organisation. I think we use the data to uncover that. But I think you should go a step further in that when you do uncover an A player, how do you then bottle that and then redistribute that to your B players to start to upskill them? As Joe put, which I was laughing because I wrote down headcount is not the metric, and then you just came out your mouth straight after it, and I thought, right, well, there we go, stealing my point. But it's very true. Like, you know, headcount was the metric, you know, just before COVID, and now we've had a very stark realization that was silly, and we shouldn't be doing that. So if headcount is no longer the metric and efficiency is, you should find out what your A player is and then try and record as many things as you can back into Bullhorn to say, okay, what can we analyze everything they do so we can extract the things they do well and feed that back to the rest of the team and make it a continuous feedback loop, recorded calls, recorded videos, any of your emails, anything we can do here to then use that as training to make our B players into A players.
Totally agree. Absolutely. I think you're right. That vanity metric, it's not really how many recruiters you've got, it's how efficient can your recruiters be or how productive can they be. That's really the measure of success. Joe, I feel that Ryan might have stolen, just to get back to you, stolen some of the things you may think about the A-player market going forward. Anything you can add to what he said there?
I think it comes down to what's your definition of an A player. You know, again, I've been talking a lot about what the past has been and how it's adapting, but an A player in the past has been top biller, and it's a very one-dimensional view of the world. I'm talking to companies at the moment where their top billers are the ones that haven't necessarily embraced technology previously. They haven't been that good at using the CRM, and they've been allowed to get away with it because they're the top biller. But actually coming into something like this, some of those people have actually found it really, really tough, because if they're focusing on one or two clients that they're servicing, all of a sudden they're not hiring anymore. Where's their revenue coming from? They're not the top biller anymore. Are they still your A player because they were in the past? So I think it comes down to a lot about how much they conform to the culture of the business and the understanding the importance of the business strategy, and that is adopting software, adopting systems and processes. But it's how coachable are they as well? How adaptable are they? How open are they to change? Because again, I think there's been this view of the world. The top billers have always been the ones that, if you ask a top biller why they're a top biller, they often give you it's because I'm great, or I've been doing this for a long time. I know my market well. But there's nothing really quantifiable that sticks to that. So I think, yeah, people that are open to being coachable, being adaptable, playing as part of a team, I think is going to be really important at that. And the ones that you can get most efficiency out of are going to be those people, I think.
Jared, gave you the hardest job of kind of seeing if there's anything else you'd add to the A player category as you think about it. But anything else you kind of put in that bucket of things that the A player either will need to or have to have going forward?
I'm honestly still processing everything that's said, and then so far I'm checking like green checks everywhere what's been said previously. So I'm going to take a little different approach on the question. I think it's very true. It's about how do you, I think, like, as we suppose we'll keep on working more from home. Suppose we're digitalizing. Suppose we're using more tools to do our work more effectively. I think the cooperation aspect of how you interact with your colleagues and how your willingness to share information, whether it's on like good candidates or whether it's on opportunities in the market, supported by technology that allows you as a company to identify this, is actually going to be key to developing A players. Because maybe like Joe and Ryan as well actually said, the A player might be a different person going forward than it was before. So I think that's important. So I think as an organization, you need to organize your knowledge and you need to make sure that the knowledge that you have on markets, on industries, on specific things are captured in your systems. And everybody that joins your company can use it and can access it so they can quickly become an A player. And I think that's really the key thing our organizations should be looking at, because the one thing that's going to be tougher if we're going to continue to work from home more often is actually the onboarding of new people. And we're going to be, even though I do believe we should all focus on automation and digitalization, we are going to hire more people in the future. And there is going to be a need for more people. So being prepared for that means really investing in this knowledge sharing and making sure that new people that don't have that A player right next to them or that very cooperative person every day next to them to ask a question to or listens into their conversation gets a good start into our industry.
Yeah, I think that's well said, Jared, and I appreciate that. That gets a green tick on my list here as well, definitely. And I think a client of mine said to me, in fact, this would be a while back now, but said to me that he gave up looking for the A players a long time ago. He doesn't really want a team of A players. It's not necessarily attainable, and actually you don't always get the best from it. He wants an awesome team of collaborative B+ players, because if he can get that team together, they are way more than the sum of their parts, and that really impacts the way their business works. So talking about being way more of the sum of our parts, gentlemen, I'd like to thank you all, Ryan, Joe, Jared, for joining us this afternoon. We always value and have valued the Bullhorn Marketplace. It's a massive part of why we're able to help our clients and deliver an incredible experience to our clients. So I appreciate you guys joining us. COVID in this time, I think, has proven that being in partner with good companies and having good partnerships and good dialogue is probably more important than ever before. So again, greatly appreciate you taking the time and effort to prepare for this, and then obviously join us on the day as well. So thank you very much. To anyone listening or watching, you can obviously find out more about Textkernel, Odro, and Cube through our marketplace. I'm sure that the guys here would be happy to talk to anyone that would like to know more about what they do. Before we wrap, I'd like to share just a little bit about things that may be of interest to you. We From Bullhorn standpoint, have a resource section on our website around COVID-19. There's some really good content in there, including some anonymized and rolled up data around the trends we're seeing in the market, and things like job placements, users logging in, etc. We share that data out, and it will help you understand a little bit more about the broader global market, what's happening. And then finally, I'd like to call out and ask for everyone and anyone's support. Tomorrow, Bullhorn is running a quiz in conjunction with some of our partners that are on today. The quiz is designed to find the world's smartest recruiter, and I'm pretty sure that's going to be a well-fought contest. But more importantly than crowning the smartest recruiter, we're going to be raising money for the NHS. So it's free to sign up. We're asking for a donation. If you can afford to make one, we'd love you to make that donation. All the money will go directly to the NHS. It'll be hosted by Peter Linus and one of my colleagues, Stuart Johnson. And I think so far we've raised over £4,000 for the NHS. So if you have the time, if you have the money, if you could join us and donate, we greatly appreciate it. And we can give back to those that are helping us in a time that's obviously difficult for all. So with that, I'll leave you with our core purpose of creating an incredible customer experience. I hope today's session has gone some way to delivering on that for you. And again, appreciate all your time and you join us. Thanks again, everybody.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.